Standing in the wake of this train wreck, my heart is beating faster in my chest. This depression terrifies me. When I'm awake, it's like these thoughts, they paralyze me. I don't wanna feel like this. I don't wanna feel like this. Time stops, weightless and cold. Silence burns like fire while my fears unfold. There's panic. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drained of air, life feels unfair without you. Come back to me, don't leave me to dream about you, dream about you, dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? Without you. What is left to say when the sky falls? I'm staring at your ghost in the stars. There's not a day that I don't miss you. The feeling swelling overflow, it's like I see you, hear you. I don't wanna feel like this. Why do I still feel like this? Heart ripped out of my brain. I sit here talking to myself. I think I'm going insane. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drained of air, life feels unfair without you. Come back to me, don't leave me to dream about you, dream about you, dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? The only way to fix this, the only way to fix this pain inside, the only way to fix this is a deep breath in as you say goodbye.
I kick ass for the Lord.
What about me?
I never loved him the way that I love you. Just drops the mic.
Bit me with his butt.
Can't see it from here.
What about the panty?
What about the panty? What's up, Butters? What's up, everybody? Hello, and welcome to 52/1993, the Spooktober edition. No, I'm kidding. This is the scariest movie we'll talk about this year. No, that's a live movie podcast where we talk about movies from the year 1993. I am your host, Cody. I am joined by my co-host today, Ryan. It's his second time back. He decided it wasn't so bad, though, so he thought he'd join us again for another great movie to talk about. If this is your first time joining us, welcome in. We are so happy for you to join us today. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, we are going to talk about movies from the year 1993. This year, we're doing it important movies by their weekend releases. Doesn't matter if they're good, bad, or somewhere in the middle, but usually have a guest host to talk about the movie with and go through different categories and such, and just have a general discussion about them. And then at the end, see what they're watching and see if there's anything good out there that we all may have missed. So that's the spiel that I give every time we do this. And welcome in, Ryan. Sorry. I feel like I say all that stuff and I welcome you in, and then I don't even get a chance to talk to you. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's good. It's great to hear your voice. What's up, 52? What's chat?
What's up, 52? I can't wait to see what these people will say. Or hopefully people have watched the movie or seen this movie before. I'd love to talk about this movie because this is my first time watching this movie. I think I've only ever seen in one Jane Campion film, and that was Power of the Dog, the one that came out a couple years ago. It's on Netflix. Benedict Cumberbatch, all that stuff. So had you seen this? I figured you have seen this movie before.
I'd seen this movie years ago, and I remember liking it a lot. And then a few months ago, I saw In the Cut with by Jane Campion. So that's the only other movie of hers I've seen.
Yeah, the only reason I know that movie is because Meg Ryan's naked in that movie.
That's true. I remember that. In the Cut's like it's like if this movie was like put in a blender with Zodiac. It's like very slow crime, gruesome crime, but like horny woman just takes a long time to get there.
Yeah. Okay. I actually have read, because like doing research for this film, and Jane Campion's name coming up so much, that there's kind of been a resurgence and like a reimagining, or people really reviewing their taste or going back on their reviews of In the Cut, and people are starting to really like that film a lot more than they did, because I think it was pretty critically panned.
It was. Well, that's what I read, and I was like, "There's a lot to like here." I mean, she's a competent director, and there's a lot of mood, and it's like Zodiac without the serial killer stuff as much. So it kind of has that vibe where I guess if you're not in on it early, you might be like, "Oh, this is taking too long. It's slow. What's the point?" But you could have said the same thing about Zodiac.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Zodiac. You didn't care for Power of the Dog, which I haven't seen. Is that correct?
I don't care for that movie that much. Yeah, like I get it, and I think, yeah, I mean, that was kind of widely believed to have been robbed at the Academy Awards for being the best picture and everything. And I don't know, I just didn't see it that year, or see it for winning that year. But I think that was a bad year anyway. I think that was a down year. But
yeah,
I don't even remember what won that year, but it's not sticking out to me. So must not have been that great. But yeah, we're talking about The Piano, and it's not a scary movie at all. And we're here around Halloween, and we don't have anything to show for it. There really wasn't a lot of scary movies this year. We watched one earlier in the year, Leprechaun, which is pretty ridiculous. And then we watched Dead Alive. Have you ever seen Dead Alive?
No.
Peter Jackson film from the early 90s, and just high camp, high gore, very funny, in the Evil Dead kind of in that realm. I love that movie. And then I don't think we've watched anything else scary. Hocus Pocus and Nightmare Before Christmas. Those are like the ones this year. But you're not a big scary movie guy, though.
No, I don't like horror. I like to go to the cool ones and the arty ones, and when they're like special or unique, I like it. But even the ones I know are cool, it takes me forever if I ever do watch them, because I just won't click on a horror film if there's something else I want to watch. And there's always something else I want to watch.
I also think that horror it's rare for horror to hit hard in the year that it came out. I feel like a lot of horror is kind of what we're saying about like in the cut. People don't realize it's special or something until much later.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow, horror nerds go so hard too. Horror film nerds go really hard on their love of horror films.
yes, yeah, absolutely. I like horror. Like is the word I
Yeah.
would use, because if I even said I loved horror nerds would come out and
Yeah, it feels like, from what I hear, it feels like we might be in a really great. They can be scary. That's true. That's the thing I don't like about them. You really got right to the core of the issue. I don't like being scared, but it feels like from the way people talk about horror recently, and we're way off topic already.
oh,
but,
it's fine. I love it.
is that like we're in a really good era for it? People are like, no, that one hit different. That one's special, and but I haven't watched any of them.
Yeah, it's this whole elevated horror topic.
That might be more up my alley. You know, like
Yeah.
the stuff like the Witch. Like I love that shit.
Mhm.
That's great. You know, make it arty, intense, put it in the period. Cool.
And the Lighthouse. If you haven't seen the Lighthouse, I think you would. I think
Yeah,
you'd
I
really
think I'd
love-
like that too.
I
Yeah.
think you'd love the Lighthouse. Yeah, we are a little off topic, but that's okay because I haven't taled about it, and I just like to talk about movies sometimes. And we'll get to this movie. It's Halloween. You're 2 days away, or whatever. And chat says almost a whole person, not a half of a person.
Yeah.
But one whole person dies by piano every year. And that brings us back to the movie at hand, which is called The Piano. It's currently playing on a VCR behind me. This movie came out. I looked up a bunch of different release dates for this, but I'm going to tell you it came out November 12th. I think that's when it came out as its New York premiere release. This was directed and written by Jane Campion. The cast, it's not a huge cast of a lot of well-known people, but I got your core four here. Holly Hunter plays Ada McGrath. Harvey Keitel plays George Baines. Sam Neill plays Alastair Stewart. This is our second dose of Sam Neill this year. Quite different than the first dose. Anna Paquin for Flora McGrath. And synopsis for this, I haven't read this yet. I always just copy it directly from Google. Don't read it at all, and it's always a surprise whenever I read this. After a long voyage from Scotland, pianist Ada McGrath and her young daughter Flora are left with all their belongings, including a piano, on a New Zealand beach. Ada, who has been mute since childhood, has been sold into marriage to a local man named Alastair Stewart. Making little attempt to warm up to Alastair, Ada soon becomes intrigued by his Maori friendly acquaintance, George Baines, leading to tense, life-altering conflicts. Not the worst synopsis ever.
What did she? First of all, did they say that Baines was Maori? Because he's not. Right?
No, he's not. It says Maori friendly acquaintance.
Oh, friendly.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, he's got the tattoos. They like him.
But they threw in there too, like she didn't really do a lot to warm up to him. Like she didn't really give him a chance, which is true. But it was a weird way to throw in the synopsis. It was like, yeah, she was against it from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, she was sold to marriage.
She was sold into marriage, and she didn't even try hard.
No, not at all. It wasn't.
She doesn't try hard at anything in this movie.
No, she doesn't. This movie, okay, so this is what really surprised me about this. Had a budget of $7 million. That's not the surprising bit. $140 million this movie made at the box office in 1993. This is when people liked going to the theaters, two, believed the hype and were like going to the theaters to see these Academy Award, like the ones that people are talking about. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah, those trailers used to work on us. Like those weeping trailers with all of the like 5-star things and the like blurb reviews. They used to really get us in the 90s.
The Roger Ebert scores, all that stuff. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. I gotta see this movie. Now we just get Peter Travers telling us over and over again, it's a roller coaster thrill ride of excitement.
Which he basically just does a synopsis and then calls it a roller coaster at the end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of previews, I know I'm going to get off topic again here. I don't know if you watched me before the stream started, but I was watching the beginning part of the VHS in the background, the movie in the background, and they were doing this preview for all these new videos that were coming out,
Oh
and
yeah.
I can't hear it. I turned the volume all the way down, but it has like this. I know it had this like sweeping music behind it, advertising all these movies, and one of them was John Candy's final performance in Wagons East,
Yeah.
next to the piano, next to like all these other movies, and they made it seem like Wagons East was cinema.
Yeah. Well, do you have nostalgia for that too? Like the studio trailers? I guess you still get them.
I
in the
love that
theaters
stuff.
sometimes, but it's so great seeing all these movies together. Like if you're a movie nerd and used to be like, hey, here's our like thing before the movie that shows you how great Paramount is, or how great especially Miramax. This is Miramax, right? This is the.
Is this the start of Miramax? Whatever it is, it's not on the case of what
I think the piano might be the heyday of like Miramax. Yeah.
Yes,
but
I think this is one of the movies that Jay and Silent Bob make reference to whenever they're talking about Miramax in one of those movies. Piano, A Crying Game.
Yeah,
that's like the Miramax classics.
But those studio trailers that would like hypercut all their hits together, I used to love them so much.
Yeah, I can remember like certain trailers, specifically Wayne's World VHS trailer, and them playing like all these different. I think Paramount might have been that studio. And it was You Got the Beat was playing in the background, and it was like that and Ferris Bueller and all these like 80s comedies, 90s early 90s comedies. I love that stuff. Yeah.
Real quick, the one that I'll never forget, it's stuck in my mind, is like Renee Zellweger screaming in Cold Mountain.
Oh yeah,
that was played in one of those supercut trailers for years and years and years.
Yes, that one was amazing. I love that so much. And it's still raining. Classic. So let's see here. $140 million. Rotten Tomatoes, I actually added all of these scores in here, all of these I don't even remember what they're called now. But Rotten Tomatoes gives a 90%. IMDb gave it a 7.5 out of 10, and Letterboxd users gave it a 3.8 out of 5. Not a lot of negative reviews on this that I could find from like big critics. Roger Ebert gave this a 4 out of 4. I pulled a blurb from his review. This is one of his better reviews that I've read. And it says, it's one of those rare movies that is not just about a story or some characters, but about a whole universe of feeling of how people can be shut off from each other, lonely and afraid, about how help can come from unexpected sources, and about how you'll never know if you never ask. Roger Ebert gave that 4 out of 4 stars. So
nice.
And then I found one really negative star, and I tried to look up this newspaper, but of course the newspaper wants you to pay for a subscription to read this archived review from 1993, so I wasn't going to do that. But Daniel Kimmel of the Worcester Telegram and Gazette gave it 1 out of 5. I was really interested. I was like, God, this guy gave it a 1 out of 5. It's got to be.
Yeah. How do you give it a 1? What are you so mad about?
Yeah. What is he mad about? I mean, I didn't love this movie, but I didn't hate this movie that bad. So, this also at the Cannes Movie Festival won the Palme d'Or. Yeah. And this movie was also nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Supporting Actress, Screenplay, Cinematography, Costume Design, and Film Editing. And it won for Actress, Supporting Actress, and Screenplay. And Anna Paquin, just to give you some more flavor for that one, she was the second youngest to win the award at age 11, first being Tatum O'Neal for Paper Moon.
Have you seen Paper Moon?
I have not seen Paper Moon.
What to watch?
That's a who directed that?
Bogdanovich?
Yeah, yes, that is a Bogdanovich. Yeah, which I like the first 3 of his movies. So why wouldn't I like that?
They get worse and worse. I think I watched them all at some point.
Yeah,
but there's the last one that he's out.
Yeah, there's one that I want to watch called The Cat's Meow. And it's about these actors that it's like a murder mystery on this boat. It's actually a true story. I think William Randolph Hearst is on this boat too. It might be his yacht. I don't know. Kirsten Dunst is in it, and not at the height of Kirsten Dunst fame. So we'll see.
Well, on the tangents today, but yeah, he left his badass wife, right? What was her name? She's edited. Is it Thelma? It's not Thelma Schoonmaker. That's Scorsese.
That's Scorsese's. I can't remember.
Well, basically, if you look back, look it up. It's the best casting director in all of Hollywood was his wife, the theory now is that she made all his movies great because he cheated on her, and then they broke up, and then all of his movies sucked, and she went on to cast some of the best movies ever. Like,
oh, now I know who you're talking
anyways,
about.
yeah, not important, but
Not important, but yeah, I would love to go down that Bogdanovich. Is it Polly Platt?
yeah, that's it. Polly Platt. And people are like, man, Polly Platt is Hollywood for the past 40 years and doesn't get enough credit. Yep.
There's a lot of those out there that people don't talk about that much. I think it was John Carpenter's wife too. Like, she was so instrumental in getting Halloween made and all this stuff, and doesn't get a lot of the credit.
Well, I mentioned Thelma Schoonmaker, right? And that's Scorsese's head editor for forever, since the beginning, pretty much. And like, his movies are mostly editing. Like, she could be more of a household name. Yeah.
And Tarantino has his film editor too, Sally Menke. I think she's been for most of his movies. And she passed away, but yeah, so not a lot of people talk about these people. So. Who knows? All right, but we're not talking about that. We're not talking about Polly Platt. But this was a significant one because out of all of the nominations for this Academy Award season and everything, I believe only did I say Score? I don't even know if Score was nominated, but like I think all of those nominations were women. So director, actor, supporting actor, all of them were women except for Score.
Yeah, well, again, it's not that much of a tangent. So we're talking about women in film, right? With the piano a lot. It's not only a big hit by a woman, written and directed, but it's about feminism. And you mentioned the Palme d'Or. I think to this day, it's still the only female-directed film or written film that's won the Palme d'Or. Which is probably considered the most prestigious film award in the world. So that is huge for that.
Yeah, the only other person I would think of to even that might have touched that was Chloe Zhao. She's more recent, and her last movie Nomadland, but I don't even know if she won the.
I know, as if I thought about it, because I know it's a trivia thing I've had in my head for some years. I saw the AV Club was like in 2014. That was true. I think it's been 5 years ago that I looked into it, so I wouldn't be surprised if they've given it to someone since then.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. She won the Venice one, the Golden Lion at the Venice, but no, that might have been the year. That was 2020 or 2021, so that was COVID years, and that was a down year for movies. I'll say that, even if Nomadland was good, or however anybody feels about it. But yeah, so like, and this is the first time a woman has been nominated for Best Director for a Best Picture. I had to get that clarified. She wasn't the first woman nominated for Best Picture. The other one was an international feature, some Italian film, I think in like the 60s or 70s that got nominated. But so this is the first one, and she kind of, doesn't set like it's not like the fire starts burning and we just get a lot of women nominees after this, but we have had a handful in the last like 20 to 30 years. So this kind of kicks off that, but not so bad. Not so bad. Yeah. All right.
And one to look back and be proud of. Like, this movie, I probably love this movie more than you do, but I do love this movie a lot. And I watched it twice this week. And I remembered loving it from years ago and was happy to find out I still, for the most part, agree.
I think my only thing with this movie, because I think it is beautifully shot, and I think that the acting choices, I think everybody is fucking killing it in this movie, acting wise, even with even Harvey Keitel, who's kind of disguised by his whatever accent he's trying to do. I could say the same thing about, we were talking about Carlito's Way and how the accent kind of gotten Pacino's way a little bit, but like Keitel is acting in this movie, and he's a good actor.
He was a little bit better than I remembered, because I remember him being a weak link, but it's only when he has to do something really extreme that he sucks. Everything's very muted and stated, and he does a good job at that.
Yes,
Sam Neill's the disappointment to me, and he still gets some good scenes.
I honestly, and we'll get to it. We'll just get to it. All right, so let's talk about this movie a little bit. Break it down by specific scenes that we remember or stuck out to us. There aren't as many like hard cut scenes where you're like, oh yes, this scene. But I do think there are some key moments in this movie that we can point back to and say. So I'll go ahead and let you start.
Yeah, so a good thing about, a thing about this movie too, I don't know if it's a piano theme, but like it's a very rhythmic film, so you have very similar scenes. So it's like, every scene on the beach is a great scene. Every scene of Anna Paquin just being cute is great. Like they're all equally great, right? So like you have these rhythmic scenes of like, okay, something with a little Flora, something on the beach, and then something with Harvey and Baines and Ada in the piano. So I mean, but to start off with great scenes, I think the iconic memories of this movie are the beach stuff and carrying a piano. It's like Herzog's Fitzcarraldo is like you're just gonna remember carrying that boat over a mountain and then pulling that piano up the beach is kind of like the number one memory people have of this film.
Yeah, and I have the beach and and when she returns to play the beach with Harvey Keitel. But that first initial beach scene where they're getting off the boat, they're like how uncomfortable she looks and how that Holly Hunter's character just looks like she doesn't want to be there at all and really like is clutching that piano almost more than her daughter. Like she's more concerned about that piano than anything.
You're making her daughter.
They just leave her. But the guys are nice. A little bit nice.
They're not that bad. But I was going to say, like, pointing out how great an actor she is, but the way she acts with her sign language, and when she's pissed off and she's just like slamming and like gesticulating further, and then she knows not to do that in every time she's using her hands. Like other times later in the movie, when she's telling her kid a story, her hand movements are more flowy and but they're still like exaggerated. Other times when she's nervous, they're tight and close to here or whatever. The fact that she thought through all of that and was able to act through her hands was so impressive.
And that's a cool, like, little comparison too, thinking about how a piano player or pianist plays a piano, interacting with their hands, how much effort or how much they're pounding the keys, as opposed to like letting them gently flow across, you're having different conversations with a piece that, that you're playing. I never thought about that until you just started talking about that. I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like watching a piano. So
well, and then like I wrote a lot down about the themes, and they're kind of on the nose, but they're not overdone. So it's okay they're on their nose. But like this is a woman who doesn't speak, a woman who doesn't have the agency to use her voice, right? And so she speaks in two ways, with her hands and with her piano with her hands. You know, she uses her hands in a double ways. And there are a lot of moments that I started noticing on my second watch where she does this a lot. Like she's holding her hands like this over her mouth, both silencing herself, but also putting her mouth where it belongs. So yeah, the way she uses her hands, and every time you see her hands in this film is something to think a second thing about. Like, well, what's the film trying to say about this, about her voice?
And honestly, whenever we do get to the relationship that she has with Keitel, as I was watching, they really don't communicate. Like she doesn't try to communicate too much with him. It's just a lot of piano playing and him sitting and observing and watching. And it's like just through her piano playing, that's how they're communicating, or that's how they're, I don't know, falling in love.
A lot of the sex scenes aren't sex scenes. They're hands. Like they're hands.
It's just touch.
People's bodies and stuff. And that is her intimacy too. I thought all of that was really smart.
I really like that too. And yeah, so we get the beach. We get them camping on the beach because her new husband is late in picking her up, or and then, you know, him bringing this group of Maoris and Baines to come get her, and she's like, take my piano. Like, we can leave everything else. You can leave my daughter.
He's like, definitely. He's like, you want to leave the kitchenware? And she's like, yeah.
I don't need it. You've got a house. Yeah.
I know you want me to cook for you, but no, I will answer yes. Leave the fucking pots and pans and bring my piano.
And he doesn't even, she's not cooking. The Maoris are cooking for it. Like, he's got it's whatever. But yeah, I like that. And again, establishes how uncomfortable she is with this arrangement. And the only things that she knows are her daughter and this piano. And that's what she wants. Those are the two things that she wants to keep with her at all times. And they refuse. And she's like, I'm going to get that piano. And I do
Well,
like,
later on, he refuses to go back. At first, he says
yeah,
he'll go back, but then he refuses to go back.
yeah,
And again, on the nose metaphor, but done really well in this movie. Every time somebody fucks with a piano, they're fucking with her agency and her
yeah,
identity, and that's the thing he respects the least, yet he doesn't realize that's the most of what she is, right?
yeah. And she convinces Baines to go somehow to go back to lead her to the beach, not to go get the piano, just so she can play it. Because he can't go get it by himself. I really like that. I like the negotiation, like trying to get him to go back, and he can't read and all this stuff. And he eventually like relents and is like, yeah, let's go, whatever. And then just at that moment, I think that's when he kind of like falls in love with her. Yeah. So no, I love the beach. I love I kind of wish the piano stayed on the beach for a lot more of the movie.
Yeah. You said 7 million. That makes sense. Later on, I was going to talk about how, the period pieces I wish had a little more broader shots and a little more epic in scope. And a lot of that's limited by budget, how many crane shots you can have to make you feel like, but I did read something about how, Jane Campion's a New Zealander. And so a part of this was exploring her history with her own culture and her own people's history. But there was a quote I found where she talked about how claustrophobic the bush feels, right? So the beach is like the only open stuff we get to see, right? These woods are very like cramped and like you feel stuck inside of them, lots of woody vines and stuff. So the beach scenes stand out even more because they're the only wide shots you get in the film.
Right. And when you are in the bush, everything looks the same. Like even like I couldn't tell you whose house was whose at one point because I was just like, I don't know how close are these places? How close is even the beach to this place?
Yeah, because it felt like they needed like a day to walk there or something, but I guess not. I don't know. She couldn't go alone.
No, she couldn't go. It was too muddy.
It was super really muddy in New Zealand. I never thought of New Zealand as so muddy and rainy, but I mean, rainy makes sense. But
yeah. So yeah, the beach scenes. What's the next thing that you had written down?
It's the small thing. The next thing I had was like carving the piano on the table. Felt like a unique thing in a film.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I hate about Sam Neill's character in this is just like how quickly he's like, is she affected in the head? Like, because she's playing the piano on the, like, you took away the one thing from her, and you can't imagine that she is playing this like fake piano just to get by, and you're like, yeah, she's affected.
There's something wrong.
I think I want to say that to
Morag. Yeah, the fact that he chooses his confidant as like Morag, is that her name?
Yeah, Morag. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's like, I need advice. What do I do? Something weird happened. Let me run to this woman of all people. And then later on, she's constantly making little comments and was like, she's like, hey, by the way, she fucked you yet? And he's like, no. He hangs his head down. And she's like, you'll get around to it. And I was like, why did you tell this woman this?
There's a lot of like weird the sex conversations that people have. So you get Sam Neill's character and Morag or whatever her name is. And when Keitel is talking to the Maori women by the river, there's a lot of sexual stuff there. One of my favorite things she says is like, it's such a waste that thing is resting on your stomach at night. And I'm just like, damn, like, interesting. But
the Maori are just here to show how noble savages are, and they really get sex better than white people. Like, I'm glad there's not more of them in the movie because I don't think this movie was prepared to deal with them very well or dealt with them very well.
This is not an anti-colonialism movie, I'll tell you that.
No, and it's not the worst version of this.
No,
by any means. So I'm just glad that they were just around occasionally.
Yeah, there was a couple scenes that I did feel uncomfortable with, and I was like, that wasn't necessary. Like, we didn't need that.
Yeah,
that was hurtful more than helpful towards anything. But
or if like Harvey Keitel had spoken about his relationship with them at all, or if Ada had a relationship with them at all, they were just like more background. I guess
they were just background. Yeah. They were just, hey, these are the people that cook my food and sometimes walk into my house.
Right.
That is one. They just walk into people's houses, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene where, and I love that Flora is like singing along or dancing to the fake piano playing. I'd
Yeah,
be more concerned about the daughter than I would.
she's not
Like,
flustered by anything her mom does. Like she gets her. Like
yeah.
even when they disagree and they spend a lot of the movie at odds with each other, like she's not like you're weird. Why can't you be normal like other moms? You know.
Yeah, I really do like that. And then I think at one point Baines at this point, like after this, Baines says like, I want to get that piano. I'll give you some land for it. And of course, Sam Neill's character is like, yeah, sure. Don't like whatever. And so he gets the piano, take it to his house. And in exchange for that, Ada's going to come over and help you learn how to play. So he Baines knows what he's doing.
I know it's a pretty baller play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam has no clue.
That's what the kids call Riz.
That's the Riz.
The Wizard of Oz. But the next scene I had was just the key exchange. And that not necessarily montage of her coming over and teaching him how to play, but Baines propositions her and says, every time you come over, I'll give you a key of your piano, and you can essentially buy your piano back.
Yeah, it's really a perfect way to like incrementally step it up.
Yeah,
and that's what they do. I had a few thoughts about those scenes. Like, obviously, I thought that a smart visual metaphor was this movie's about like intimacy breaking through repression, and so I think in a lot of the intimate things, there's a lot about undressing and about like slips and holes in clothes. Right. So my next scene I think is when he gets under the piano and tells her to lift her skirt up, and there's that one hole in her sock, and he just wants to like touch that. He wants to touch it through these things, these literal like layers of clothes that are keeping her all bundled up and away from her natural sexual intimate state or whatever. He finds a way to get through and touches that, and she's always like slipping through clothes to touch again with her hands, whether it's Sam Neill later or Baines now. So that's a big metaphor too. So everything gets to be in a very childish way about like escalating playing doctor. Like, now take this off for a key, take this off for 2 keys. Now come lay down with me naked for 5 keys.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Okay.
This is so it like, and I know they go back on it, and Baines even after the end of this, well, I think once they've exchanged like 10 keys or whatever for the I think laying down naked together,
which was a bad message. I feel like they actually fuck, and then he's like, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, well, does that because you got what you wanted and you're done now? Or
I don't know if they did fuck.
You think they were just laying down?
I think that and through all that stuff and like
heavy petting.
Yeah, heavy petting, everything like that. I think that
I would pay. Hey, I just want to put it out there to the universe. I would pay like at least 10 piano keys for some heavy petting at this point in my life. All right. A whole scale.
And I never felt like she was forced to do anything. Obviously, she had some negotiation skills and stuff where she was like, he was like, lay down with me 5 keys. And she was like, no, hell no, we're doing that 10 keys or whatever. Or
yes, never in much distress, which is important.
Yeah.
And then, this movie has good pacing, but it's so precise. The pacing needs to be precise. It gets weird where it feels like there's little like staggering jumps of her being into it instead of like a slow like build up into it. So, so she's clearly supposed to be into it increasingly, but you don't really see that happen increasingly. You see that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably where most of my problems come from. Not the solicitation, but like seeing her be like more and more okay with the things that he's asking, whether it seems like just general frustration with the whole thing and her just wanting to get that piano back as badly as possible. And then all of a sudden she's into him.
Yeah.
But it
pulls her arm back. My favorite was the first touching part, the arm part.
When she takes off the jacket or whatever.
It was really beautifully shot. Her hairs on her arm were standing up or whatever, which I thought made it seem like it was a lot of verisimilitude. But she pulls her arm back and slowly puts it back, and it's very gentle caressing.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is Harvey Keitel comes off to me as a very in other roles that I've seen, maybe like rougher and more violent seeming than he is in this movie, which is
gentle. It's weird how he's able to like seem gentler than he's supposed to look rougher and less pretty and a little scary. But the movie never really makes me scared of him at all. Yeah.
No. That's one thing that I will credit Harvey Keitel in doing is like, I
Mhm.
do think he acted pretty well in this, and, you know, did give me that he's gentle. He's,
Mhm.
he does love them. He appreciates her.
Mhm.
That is, and I think that is the thing that in her mind, she's like, oh, that's all I want. Like, he appreciates me doing the thing that I love,
Yeah.
and also appreciates me for my, you know, my looks, my purpose, my all this stuff. I
Well, this
think
movie's about normality a lot too, and he wants to meet me where I am outside of
Mhm.
normality instead of saying, "Hey, I love you, so I'm going to yank you back into this normality that's not actually you."
Yeah,
That's huge.
and not forced to be here. She's
Mhm.
doing, I mean, she's
And
kind of
freedom.
forced to be there, but not really. Um,
So yeah,
yeah,
the piano scenes escalate, and their love escalates along with it.
and he says to her after he kind of gets after the laying down naked scene, he's like, just take, you can have the piano, like, you're gonna take
Mhm.
it. I don't want it anymore. I've made you I'm making you a whore, and I can't remember what he says, like,
He uses the word wretched. I feel wretched.
wretched. Yeah, I feel
Uh,
wretched. I'm making you a whore, and I feel wretched.
and
So
I think he does make it pretty clear. He definitely does later, but I think even there he makes it pretty clear that he is now feeling like, oh, I have these feelings, and you're just here for your piano.
yeah,
And so that's why he's sending her away. And I think maybe at this point in the movie, maybe she thinks she has feelings back, but hasn't really looked them in the eye, and so is not ready to be like, no, I'm here because I want to be too. I am here. She's telling herself that she's just there for the piano and isn't sure if that's true yet. So she takes the deal and walks away with it.
yeah. He wants her to take care of him, or I think that's one thing. He's like, I want you to take care of me and
Oh yeah,
be with me, and in the way that you can't. So
in the way that you can't. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
take your piano and go. And then she realizes, no, I'm into you, and then they fuck.
Then they fuck. Okay, yeah.
And then they fuck, and then that little dastardly Flora.
Yeah, I had a lot of conflicting feelings about the whole arc of when and why Flora turns on her mom a little bit. I think it's a little bit of jealousy and just a kid not knowing the stakes.
And I think it's an interesting piece or interesting part of this movie that even like Sam Neill says some like standoffish things, but
Mhm.
like his character is never, again, like, soft spoken for the most part. He isn't as violent, or like, and what Flora probably sees is, I have a dad, like, this is my dad, and she
Okay.
even calls
Yeah.
him dad several times, like Papa
So,
or
well, that
whatever.
was weird. I noticed that in my second watch. One of the pacing problems I think is that they didn't they also didn't slowly grow Alistair being scary either. So when the burst of violence comes at the end, you're like, I was kind of actually feeling a little bad for this guy most of the movie. And then all of a sudden he's this big of a villain. Like he
Yeah.
was not that big of a villain before. So they never her and her mom never talk about like the stakes. Like, hey, if you do this, or if I do this, like what if I get kicked out and I don't have a place to live with my daughter? Like, stuff like that. Or, what if I'm banished from this community? The stakes are never talked about. Um,
And like, Alistair sees them having sex and watches for in like different angles and
yeah, he gets
everything.
under the house.
He gets under the house. He gets that like button or whatever that falls through the
Yeah.
floorboards and stuff.
He
So
lets
he's
that
not like,
dog he lets that dog lick his hand while that guy's looking at his
yeah,
wife's vagina. That was a strange choice in that
was
movie.
that was a choice, and it wasn't necessarily anger that I guess he's feeling, because like,
He's almost in wonder. Yeah.
yeah,
He's like,
like,
oh, is that what it's like?
and we see that whenever they like meet in the woods or whatever, like he like catches her in the woods and tries to like replicate what he just saw
Yeah.
happening in there.
Real quick, I loved that scene because it felt elevated. It felt arty because they were almost like doing a choreographed dance rather than playing a very realistic R word scene. Right?
Yeah.
Like her faces and their movements. I don't know. For some reason, there are little tiny things in this movie that occasionally elevate out of a grounded, slow period drama and start to get a little arty, and that was one of them. Yeah, his failure to like get what he saw.
But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I agree with you on the Flora thing. Like, we didn't get enough of her being so trusting of this new man in her life or
I
anything
did have
like
a
that.
note. she kind of betrays her mom a little bit when the two women at the rehearsal. So when she's being confronted with norms and is trying to fit in with her mom's not around at one of the rehearsals, and she's like, yeah, well, my mom says things that are rude. She's actually downright unholy sometimes, you know, like I think she uses the word unholy, which she probably learned from these women.
Mhm.
And so like in that situation, she betrays her mom a little bit. And then I think it's after she gets yelled at for humping the trees.
Oh yeah.
That a big betrayal comes after that. Like the first one of like they don't even play piano together. Like takes that anger from her new father off of her and puts it on her mom. But that's also after she's been shamed by the normal society, right? Like
Yeah. And I'll get to it in the quotes and stuff like that. But yeah, there is that. It is weird that she is so she has moved so quickly into this new life that she's willing to, yeah, essentially betray her mother. It was
that part is not done perfectly. It's not necessary for the
Mm-mm.
movie, but it could have done better. It could have been done better tracking Flora's feelings that which seem to go back and forth. And then when she's like locked up in the house, Flora's like, "That's great. Let's play cards. Is this on you, mommy? You were a bad girl." And like maybe she's just jealous that her mom's like not around her all the time anymore.
Yeah. I like that card scene. I
Like,
can
we can play
imagine.
cards. It's fine.
I can imagine me doing that with my my parent who is absolutely annoyed with me, just laying there sad and just playing cards on her hip. She's not even touching them or anything. Okay, let's see. Chat says both mom and daughter are property in this situation. If the movie is a lot about norms, the norm would be to act appropriately and be a perfect lady, even if that means tattling on your mom. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's where the movie's going. It's just, I wasn't sold on the transformation from her on the beach who just worships her mother to betraying her. But I think like that's why I wrote it down. Like, oh, it's when she's in the rehearsal scene. It's after she gets yelled at for humping a tree or kissing a tree that she does these betrayals because she's being pulled in two different directions. But we focus so much on Ada, like it's not that's not fully fleshed out. But I think that's what they're going for. I think that's
yeah. So maybe they did have sex before they had sex. Maybe you're right. The tree humping scene, I just remembered that, and I'm like, oh yeah.
I feel like even an incel like Baines gets fully naked and lays down with a woman and spends like hours. I was like, yeah, you just never made it happen. But I don't know. He had a wife. She had sex before. Why would they go that far? And
he's definitely had sex with that group of Maori women. I mean, they know that he's got something down there. So
yeah, they've seen it.
They've seen it. Yes, they have. I think this leads into like that key exchange and all that. This stuff leads to the big blow up. I think obviously there was that like SA scene in the woods. But
we talk about the theater scene just because it felt like such a big set piece.
Yeah, the theater scene. That I don't even. This kind of came out. I know that they were preparing for it, and like everybody in the household, I don't understand what it was for.
Okay. There is a couple key moments in there. You do get to see Baines get made fun of, right? He gets roasted by normies.
Mm-hmm.
You see him out of his element. I think they were trying to set up a Baines, because it comes back later, Baines and Nessie thing, by like, hey, you should sit next to her and change the sheets or whatever. And then later on, when he's leaving, Maytag or whatever the fuck her name is I don't remember.
The washing machine.
Yeah, she's not a washing machine, but she's a human being, for Christ's sake. But she's like, anyways, she's like, oh, Nessie's sad because Baines is leaving and she has an affection for him. I thought one of the more interesting parts of that scene is, so he's about to, I think, go sit next to Nessie because Samuel's like, all right, go on, because I don't know where else he's telling him to go on to. And Ada stops him from leaving. Like, I don't want you to leave. But then he gets mad, I think, because Samuel's holding her hand and leaves.
Yeah.
And smile on her face. Like, she's not smiling because he's holding her hand. She's smiling because it pisses Baines off.
Yeah, it makes him jealous. And she likes
and that was one of the first biggest hints I think I got, that I was like, you are into it. Like, you're into him. And the only other thing I'd have is I just think it was a well-executed scene. The Maori's running on stage. It's all right.
Yeah, that's the part of that scene that I did not love. Obviously, and then you have the Bluebeard being the kind of like the Bluebeard play that they're putting on. You know, Bluebeard, I guess what is this fairy tale that he kills all his wives and except for the one that actually gets away. I think obviously you can see some
Which
correlation
again,
there.
I think it's a metaphor of like, hey, this woman is every woman. She's just the latest in a long line of people who were silenced by patriarchy, right? And the woman in the tale is the latest in the long line who's trying to escape being killed.
Yeah, but yeah, this weird portrayal of like the stupid Maori.
But then somehow noble too, the noble savage thing again too, because it's like, I'm too dumb to know this is a play, but I'm not going to be like all these other guys and sit around and let this woman get murdered.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to shove this club up your arse. And I love that the subtitles use arse. Like they have to say ass. I guess you'd have to say ass the way the white characters would, because that's. But the subtitles are for me and not for. And it's strange.
I love the people that the actors or whatever being like, oh look, this is where they put their head through the sheets to say that they're decapitated and they're not really doing this to these women. And I didn't love that. I didn't love that.
All right. But to the big blow up, then I think we're good.
Yeah, I think the big blow up is it, and this all stems from she's been locked up in the house. Her husband's about to go build fences or whatever, and he's like, "You belong to me. Like you're not gonna go see him again, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna go see him," and she doesn't go see him, but I love that she takes the key out of the piano and like engraves "My heart is always yours" or something like that to Baines. My heart belongs to you. It's way better than what I said. And asks for whatever reason her daughter to deliver this to Baines.
What are you doing?
Does she not know that her daughter is the one that's like basically told on her like 3 times?
Yeah, she does, because at some point she was like, "Yeah, you were wrong, Mom. You did a bad thing." Like, absolutely, she knows, and I don't know why she can't walk there herself. Like she's done that before too.
Yeah,
she's not worried about leaving her daughter alone because she's sending her off alone.
Yeah, it was
also flag down a Maori person.
Yeah, they like Baines.
Yeah, they like Baines. Apparently, they do shit for buttons. So, like, I don't know, get some buttons together and like. Anyways,
well, I guess just with her and her daughter, like the daughter's basically the only one that can communicate with her.
Oh, that's true.
She couldn't communicate with the Maori because they probably can't.
She can just like take the Baines, but I don't know English.
They can't. Yeah, they probably can't read the English, and none of the other English speaking people like her. So I don't know, but she gives it to the daughter, and the daughter, of course, runs straight to Alistair and's like, "Hey, my mom wanted me to take this to Baines. I don't know what it is, but here you go." And Baines gets pissed off, runs back to the wife, and goes ham on her.
Yeah.
And screaming at her, pulling her out of the house, aggressive, takes her out of the house, gets an axe, puts her hand on a stump, and chops off her finger, which is an overreaction, I think.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Yeah, a bit. Great scene. She's so good in that scene. She's so good in this movie. And we just real quick say Holly Hunter is underrated and underutilized. I had to look up all the movies I love her in. She helped create 13, but she 1987 she did Raising Arizona and Broadcast News, which I deeply love. I think I made that one of my favorite movies in our interview. But she's so good in the scene, the way she holds her head there and just uses muted expression. And throughout all of that, we have to remember she's selectively mute. And throughout all of these things that happen, like she never makes noise. She never cries out. She takes it all stoically. So whatever her decision was as a child to not speak, like cannot be shaken and cannot be taken. That decision cannot be taken from her. Even throughout all this.
And what a choice! 2 things that happened to Flora is one right before when he's pulling up the axe to come down on there, and she screams she's never gonna do it again. She said no because he asked, "Do you love him?" And she said, Flora screams at him, "No." She said no.
Did you pay enough attention? Was there any indication that she actually said no, or that?
No. She's just doing it to try and save her mom.
She's just doing it to try to save her mom. Yeah. That's what I thought too.
And then after the axe comes down, the choice to have the blood squirt on Flora is both wild because it's like
it's wild.
But I think too that shows like, hey, blood's on your hands a little bit here. Like,
I didn't
metaphorically.
Because I think the both times I watched it, I just didn't think it looked very good. So
it does
really,
not look
it
good,
was like
but
a silly moment in a great scene. So that's all I could think about. But yeah, absolutely, you did get blood on your hands.
Like, this is a little bit your fault, so you're gonna get some blood on you.
But then the psychopath's choice to say, "Here's your mother's bloody finger. Please take it to her lover." And that's crazy.
Yeah. Instead of, and I like that wrapped up, kind of like the piano key was wrapped up, and take this to her, and she is very upset. Obviously, she's taking her mom's severed finger to her lover. But I really, when she gets to the cabin and she's super upset, I love Baines in this. Like, I love Harvey Keitel in this scene. He is very sweet to her and very trying to, like, and I think the Maori woman's like, hey, calm her down a little.
Stop asking questions right now. She's just a little girl.
Yeah, she's just a little girl. Leave her alone. And I think he is very receptive to that. And
well, then later on, they're like sleeping in the same bed together.
Yes, I loved that. I loved that a lot. What do we think the range on severed finger blood squirts is? It looks really bad in this movie, I will say.
Yeah. I mean, what was that? That was it looked like 3 to 5 yards.
I just imagine Jane Campion standing behind the camera with a little squirt bottle and just squirting it at her.
Like, it's Halloween season. Come on, guys, get into it. Yeah, she does have piano fingers, and they have to be pumping blood hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fingers are not pumping blood like that.
Interesting that obviously he cuts off a finger. She is a piano player. Hands are very important. Fingers are very important to a piano player. So he could have taken anything from her. He could have cut her head off, and she probably would have been fine with that. But the fact that he's taking a finger is a much bigger deal.
Well, and then continues to say, like, because I don't think they ever make it clear that he's doing that for that cruel reason, rather than just like, this is the smallest cut I can make or whatever, like, I think he makes the point to say, like, tell her every time, like, you try to see her again, I'm taking another finger until she can't play anything anymore or talk anymore, Oof. Yeah. Again, he goes from like a 3 out of 10 bad dude to like a fucking 11 out of 10 real fast.
Yeah, it's definitely an explosion, especially with what happens after, because he gets to that point and then you never see any more blow-ups like this. A comparison I want to make, not a comparison, but like, we watched a movie earlier this year called This Boy's Life. I don't know if you've ever seen that with De Niro. But De Niro is an abusive father figure to Leo in this, abusive husband, and like has blow-ups pretty consistently. Not saying that, an abusive person has to have that, but like we see that one moment with Sam Neill, and then it's back down, like he's back down, and he's like, I just want to get laid. I just want you to touch me in the way that you touched him. And and then
she actually in this period has tried too, right? She tries to do some like 19th century butt stuff with him, and he can't get into it.
Yeah, no, and she only wants to touch him. She never wants him to touch her.
That's right.
Which is interesting too.
I didn't really get that as like an explicit like line she was drawing, but
because he like at one point tries to like flip this script, and she's just like very.
Yeah, I do remember that happening, and he says like, "Why can't I touch you?" And I interpreted that. I think your interpretation is correct. I interpreted that as in, I don't know, I thought he was like impotent and that he was like just too nervous or some shit.
Mm-hmm. I figured one, because he tried to, get her in the woods or whatever, which probably wouldn't want to be touched then too. And then two, just like, I know what I want Bane to touch me. I can touch you. I can please you. I can do all these things, but you can't do that to me.
Yeah.
Because you're incapable of doing that. Like, you're not him.
Right, and it gets back into touch as ownership too. Like, this is the guy who wants to own her, not the guy that just wants to be where she is.
Yeah.
So she's not giving herself to somebody who's going to interpret it that way.
And then like we get a few of those scenes where they try, like you said, 19th century butt stuff. Which if I wish we titled these, that would be the title of this podcast, 19th century butt stuff. And he kind of just gives up. Basically like the last 30 minutes he's just like, I can't please her, she's yours, or I can't do anything.
Let's have a conversation about that. I'm sorry, I feel like we're going longer than we're supposed to on your podcast.
Oh no, you're fine.
Okay. So this only got through to me on the second watch because then I read in the between, I read the Wikipedia synopsis and it makes a kind of bold claim. I think there's like supposed to be slightly magical realism in this. It makes the claim that when Ada is telling Flora about her father in a cute storybook kind of way, he says, I didn't have to use my, she's like, did you ever talk to him or something? She's like, I didn't have to use my voice with him. I could write my thoughts on his brain, like sheets on a page or something like that. And the synopsis in Wikipedia makes it seem like she really believes that she communicated with her father, Flora's father, through telepathy.
Yeah, telepathy.
And I was like, oh, I didn't really get that. But then at the end, it comes back. And I mean, that's one of the quotes, one of the longer quotes when he's like, I was sitting there and watching her and I heard her voice in my head, even though her mouth wasn't moving. And that's also after he asks, has she ever talked to you, Baines? Have you ever heard her voice?
Mhm.
Because that's an intimate thing she's not giving anyone, even her daughter. So has she given that to you and not to me? But then he says, I heard her voice in my head. And so I think that it harkens back to the idea that she has like telepathic powers when she really needs them.
Mhm.
Or like in a magical realism way is able to assert her will because she talks about her will and how strong and scary it is in that speech. But anyways,
that's really interesting because I saw the telepathy thing and I just kind of skipped over it just because I was like, oh, she's just telling like this is how that storybook telling of her to her daughter.
Like I can make my thoughts, my feelings known, but it was just like
yes, by my playing
more than like anything literal.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that. I like the way you explain it better than obviously Wikipedia explains it.
Yeah, right.
But no, I like that. But I also like a little bit of that. I'm like, is he just to the point, like, and understand, like he gets that realization just from her playing and now seeing like, I'll never be able to break this. I'll never be able to break into this.
I agree. I think that's supposed to be 80% of the interpretation. Like, and I think that it might just be a little like you want to elevate again, like that other scene that I felt, the other little moments. Like there's that one little 2-second thing that's animated. I forget what the context of it is. But there's like a brief thing towards the beginning that's like a little animated picture of something. And I'm like, wow,
yeah,
there's animation in this movie.
Well, I also want
little, like spurts of elevation out of a grounded period piece that happen. And I wonder if that like telepathy connection from the beginning to the end might be one of them.
Now I'm wondering about like her playing the piano on the table, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even if that is like
wow, like that'd be really cool.
A form of like telepathy with her daughter, like her daughter can hear her singing or and that's why she's dancing or dancing along to it or singing along to
like
it.
A really fun fan theory to go back through this movie and look at like strange moments and try to interpret them with her like asserting her will through like telepathy.
Yeah. This is a sci-fi movie. We're good.
Yeah. We're good. Back in.
This actually goes right back into this is how Minority Report starts.
Yeah.
She's a precog. So yeah, George goes or Alistair says, you know, after that, like thinks he can hear her voice and asks her to let George take her, and he's obliging, I guess. And so they leave together from the beach that they first started from, and they take the piano with her. And this is, I don't know where I'm at on that. Like she asks them to throw the piano overboard, and she lets herself go down with the piano.
Yeah.
Like gets caught up in the ropes, and
I think 100% that's how it's meant to be seen.
Yeah, and as she's drowning, like it she changes her mind and gets free, like and goes back up to the top and lives her life as we hear her narration. That's the only time she talks in the movie is through her narration. She says that at the beginning of the movie, everything like that. And she lives her life with George and Flora in a new place. She gives piano lessons. She has a metal. He replaced her finger with a metal one, which is badass. Yeah. Such badass thing.
We're both like, cool, mutant woman.
And then it like obviously shows, goes back into like this Titanic-esque, like, hey, we're going to show you the piano underwater. And she dreams about that piano and everything. So why does she let herself get taken down by the piano?
All right, so yeah, I definitely have thoughts about this. First of all, I think this is also an illusion. Well, and I don't know if this belongs in our trivia section either, but I don't know if you came across the fact that Campion wanted her to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was like her initial desire for the movie was that she would just drown. I think that is an allusion to Kate Chopin's The Awakening. Have you ever read or heard of The Awakening?
No.
It's a very famous short story / novella from like 1899. I looked it up. I knew it was early, but it's like proto-feminism and like proto-Southern Gothic kind of vibes. Great,
Okay.
great short read. But it's about a woman who's in a marriage and is unhappy, and she slowly starts challenging one little norm at a time, and seeing like the punishment she gets societally from that. And essentially, I'm going to spoil it. Essentially, at the end of it, like when everything doesn't work out for her because the world will not let her be herself, she just walks into the ocean and dies. She drowns herself, and that's how The Awakening ends, right? And it's a really great, first wave feminism novella. And that concept has been used a lot, and has been used a lot with female characters because of that book. So I think there's some of that going on here.
Okay.
As far as to why Ada as a character at that point would try to kill herself, I think that the only answer can be that she still doesn't know. She still feels attached to a man. She still doesn't know if she wants to live.
Yeah, that's the only interpretation I can get from it is that she's just in a different scenario, but it's the same.
Yeah, how is this gonna play out like the first guy, like the second guy? Well, the first guy's my father, how he treated me. The second guy is the guy who abandoned me. The third guy is Sam Neill, and now I'm gonna go off of Baines. Is it just gonna repeat itself forever? Do I even want to? Do I even care? And she's like, what if me and my piano could just be alone forever? And she needs to find out whether she really wants to try. And I don't think the movie justifies that action very well. I think that it was in probably Campion's head early on as an amazing image and a feminist reference, and also a cool bummer of an ending. I love bummer endings.
Yeah.
And then I think later on she was like, it's too on point, and I haven't really justified it. And so let's tack a little happy epilogue onto here.
And like just releasing and letting go of the thing and putting her trust in something else, and in Baines, in living this new life.
Yeah.
Because that is going to this new, like we said, Alistair's not necessarily like evil right away. He's trying to figure her out and figure out how to make her happy there. And she's very closed off. And
yeah, especially through the telepathy, like that he gets from her. Like, it doesn't make fully sense. They don't justify that action. It's just a very Oscar Beatty, arty scene. And then they have to decide whether or not this character kills herself or doesn't, and they decide not to.
I mean, I obviously, with the scene before, I'm glad that she doesn't go through with it or let herself die.
I like the happy ending, actually. I mean,
yeah, I think it works a lot better. The metal finger and all that stuff, and like her narration over it, and
that one scene they have together was convincing. It was convincing when he's like flirting with her by hiding, because she has to practice speaking now, but she has to do it in the dark because she's, I don't know, embarrassed or something.
Yeah.
When they kiss through the thing. Oh, yeah, it was like a sweet scene. I was like, oh, I believe that you guys are happy together. Good.
Yeah. So do you think that when they were, her and Harvey Keitel, and he said, say something to me, that she said something to him?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because they're like in bed after, doing it and everything. And he says, tell me something or say something to me. And she like goes up to his ear, and you don't hear anything at all. But you see her go into his ear like she is whispering something. So
I'm upset at myself for like probably looking away. Because I don't know that part. But I'm gonna say it's like my take on the end of Inception. I mean, like if she goes to his ear, that means something happens. Like,
I think it's interesting too, because Alistair asks Baines, like, has she ever spoken to you? And he says no.
He says no.
Yeah, he says no. And I wonder if she has said something to him, but because it is a very intimate, very trusting, like the fact that he's like, I'm keeping that in, like, that's mine. That's not yours. You don't get to know that she speaks.
Or you got a gun and you're mad at me. I mean,
that's true too.
I already got things from your wife that you can't. I'm not.
It's true.
Talk to me too. Yeah.
Oh man. Now you're making me like this movie more than I did.
Cool.
Not that I
think
hated
it's
it. I
good.
didn't
I don't
hate
think
it.
I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but I think the visual metaphor is great.
Yeah.
The directing is mostly great.
Mhm.
There's things I don't like about it. There's problems with the pacing, the acting so good, and I love period pieces, and I love feminism, Cody. You know that about me.
I know that. If there's one thing I know about you, it's your love of feminism.
Yeah.
I'll shout that from the
Feminism.
rooftops. All right. Were there any other scenes that you wanted to talk about before we move over to some of the? I think we might cover some other things from these scenes.
No, yeah, I think everything's good to go.
All right. Who's your favorite character, or who do you think stole the scenes?
It's bad for this movie, but yeah, I guess Ada. Yeah,
Yeah,
could say
she was
Flora.
definitely my favorite. For the purpose of this, I'll say that a little scene stealer is Anna Paquin. I think Flora is amazing.
We should definitely say little Anna Paquin is wonderful.
Yes.
And even when because she's such a good actor, but even what I love about it is you see her being a little actor. She's not so good that she's hiding it. And that makes you love her more because she gets so serious and she's trying so hard to be a crazy good little actor. And every time she's on screen, I swoon. I love her so much.
I love her little accent, and that's not her normal accent. She's putting on that accent, and it's amazing. I do recommend everybody go, like, if you care, which I think you would care, go look at her acceptance speech when she gets the Oscar when she wins the Oscar.
Oh, I definitely want to see that.
It's a genuinely special moment, and like even all of the women around, because like Holly Hunter is nominated for The Firm. For her 10 minutes of screen time. So she's sitting right next to Anna Paquin in this. Emma Thompson is right behind them for In the Name of the Father. I think Rosie Perez is nominated in this category, and I can't remember who
right now.
I don't remember what Rosie Perez was nominated for. It was not anything huge. But it's got to be her second nomination. I think it's got to be. I don't know. Anyway, but to see the joy and surprise, and like, I love Emma Thompson. I love Emma Thompson's face in the background of this. It's amazing. Holly Hunter is just like, she knows she's about to win for best actress that night. So, but it is adorable. And Anna Paquin for like 30 seconds goes up on stage and is just silent, it doesn't know what to say.
I will watch that.
Yeah, she gives the cute. It's just a cute little thank you, but everything before her actual speech is great.
Yeah, you couldn't have done better than her. I mean, she was amazing. So I could totally see Flora being the answer as best favorite character.
And she has some great lines too, and I mean, she does most of the speaking for her mother in this. So
there are two men who don't know how to communicate very well, and a mute woman, and then there's Anna Paquin. She's doing a lot of the lifting here.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of favorite quotes, what are some quotes that you had written down that really stuck out?
Oh, I think I have a good handful of them. God loves dumb things. Why shouldn't I?
That is a good line. I love that.
Yeah. There's nothing so easy to like as a pet, and they're quite silent.
That was Maytag?
That was Maytag. It's her. Can you imagine if I'm like, Cody, this is my new girlfriend. She's mute, and is that weird? That's not weird, right? I can love a mute woman, and you're just like, well, look, Sparky doesn't say anything, and we love him. What a horrible thing to say.
Damn, Maytag.
Yeah,
she's bringing the heat.
Okay, and then in the tree fucking scene, he says, "You shame these trunks,"
and then he makes her wash them.
He makes her wash the trunks for the shame she brought upon them.
I don't know if she humped every single one of those trunks, but
yeah,
he made her wash every single one.
All of these trunks have been shamed by you and your little brown buddies. You better clean them all off. That was wild.
I forgot about the washing scene. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I have a few quotes that are a little longer that there's not a lot of eloquence in this movie. It's all done through visual metaphor and actions, right? There's not a lot of this movie is really harkening back to the Brontes and Emily Dickinson. I think Campion said was an influence, and that makes complete sense. But they obviously used a lot of verbal eloquence, and this movie doesn't. So I had from a scene I'm sure we'll talk about later. Maytag says, she does not play the piano as we do, Nessie. No, she is a strange creature, and her playing is strange, like a mood that passes into you. Now your playing is plain and true, and that's what I like. to have a sound creep inside you at all is not at all pleasant. So like it really is like about, ooh, her piano playing's weird. It's not proper. It's not precise. She's doing a natural thing when she's saying this.
Yeah.
And so the idea like that there's something unnatural or horrible about how like sensuous maybe or emotional Ada's playing is, like it's not precise, so it's not proper. And then right at the end of that scene, in a comedic way, they all run away because a bird scares them, which is like a very safe and natural thing. Like,
Yeah.
they're scared of the woods they're in. These people are really like trapped inside these things.
I wonder if that weird feeling again can be attributed to the telepathy.
Oh, it could be, yeah. I mean, I thought it was a metaphor for horniness, but
Oh yes, you're right. You're right. It is.
Yeah.
But just another thing. You got me on the telepathy train now.
Yeah, it's really good. Let's see what else do I have quickly. What she says through her telepathy to dude, I am afraid of my will, of what it might do. It is so strange and so strong. I have to go. Let me go. And then I would jump forward to her voiceover. Her voiceover later after not choosing to drown is what a chance, what a chance, what a surprise. My will has chosen life. So again, this is all going back to the little bit of words we're getting through her in two different ways. It's going back to the whole point of this is that she gets to have a fucking choice about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's her asserting her will and getting something that she wants. It's great. Maybe that's why she jumped off and then decided not to kill herself, because then it felt truly like something she chose.
She got to choose that in the moment. Yeah, I like that. I like that interpretation. That's good.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I had several different ones. Mine are a little bit, Flora. I had a couple from Flora.
Definitely.
Alistair says, "Where's your mother? Where's she off to?" And Flora screams at the top of her lungs, "To hell!"
That whole scene, you bloody bugger! You get bit by a mad dog until you bleed. Oh my god, they must have just like gave that poor kid sugar and they said, "Just go fucking wild,
go crazy."
I can watch. I rewound that shit.
To hell!
Ow!
She's amazing.
So
A couple of the voiceover things I have. So at the end, Ada says, "At night, I think of my piano and its ocean grave, and sometimes of myself floating above it. Down there, everything is so still and silent that it lulls me to sleep. It is a weird lullaby, and so it is. It is mine." I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, actually, I had that, and I didn't want to read too many because I think I wrote the rest of it too.
Yeah.
There is a silence where hath been no sound. There is a silence where no sound may be, in a cold grave under the deep, deep sea. Again, an eloquence at the very end of it that the rest of the movie kind of lacks, for better or worse. I don't know. But
at one point, Flora is talking to Maytag and Nessie, I think, and they're talking about her mother and why she doesn't speak or anything like that. And Flora says, "Actually, to tell you the whole truth, Mother says that most people speak rubbish and it's not worth it to listen." Love that line.
Yeah, and they were like, yeah, and that's when she kind of throws her under the bus because it was like, well, that's a very strong opinion.
Yeah.
And Paquin goes up, yeah, it's downright unholy, is what it is.
At the end, again, when she's explaining her new life, she says, "George has fashioned me a metal fingertip." I love this part where it says, "I am quite the town freak, which satisfies."
Yep, I wrote that one down too.
Yeah.
Which satisfies.
Stuart and Alistair has a couple more. I knew she was mute, but now I'm thinking it's more than that. I'm wondering if she's not brain affected. I just thought that was hey man, something's wrong with her. Yeah. And also, here's the worst line, and it goes into like the biggest scare or thrill of the movie. But when he cuts off her finger and everything, and then he's like trying to comfort her, he says like, "I clipped your wing."
Oh yeah, my little lovebird.
Yeah, my little.
Oh, are you hot? Are you hot? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes, she's in shock because you just took an appendage from her. "I clipped your wing. I had to. You made me," kind of thing. Like, oh, that was the most like sinister moment for Alistair.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's all the quotes I had. But yeah, biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill.
I think I had everything I've had. We talked about. I was like, anything with Nessie was kind of funny. There's not a lot of F that dude for real. There wasn't a lot of comedy in here, but I think my favorite funny scene is the one we just talked about, like bloody bugger her.
Yeah, to hell.
And then I wrote down 19th century butt stuff.
Yeah, 19. I didn't even think about it. But she was just putting her finger all around his butt, going in the crack a little bit. She was getting there. Where'd she learn that? I don't know. Telepathy. She basically knew that that's what he wanted. He didn't want to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But most ridiculous moment.
Oh, well, okay, yeah. The like old lady's like, I can't hold it. Will you please hold blankets around me as we're alone in the woods while I pee in the ground?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna squat and pee, and then while you guys are holding blankets to hide me, I'm gonna tell you what's wrong with that bitch we were hanging out with.
I forgot about the peeing scene.
Yeah.
Maytag.
And like Nessie keeps like, I don't know why she keeps putting it down, and she's like, up. So like that she does not play the piano as we do, Nessie. That's where that speech comes from. But like I had like, ... all the time. She had to yell at Nessie to keep it. And then a bird comes and Nessie goes, yeah, and they all run away. Because a bird flapped his wings nearby.
The most ridiculous moment I had was the Maori at the play.
Yeah.
I just didn't love that. I kind of, I don't know, hated it. Best music moment, obviously with movies like this, they're not going to be like needle drops or anything like that in this movie. But Michael Nyman's score is really wonderful.
Yeah, apparently it's gotten a lot of praise even over the years too. I think Entertainment Weekly put it on top 100 movie scores.
Well, and it's obviously it's a piano score, which you don't get a lot of. I can't think of like famous scores off the top of my that aren't like strings and horns. Mostly, you think of a John Williams score, it's strings and horns. Horns,
or it is a soundtrack of pop music, right? That was in a specific way.
Or Zimmer with his like just ominous strings. Like that's a thing. So you don't get too many of these piano, where the piano is the central.
I wanted more piano, right? It was a little like honestly, I love piano music was what I was going to say. I'm not an expert at it. I don't listen to it a ton, but I think piano music is so pretty. So it definitely was an easy thing for me to love about this movie is watching and listening to it.
I'm trying to think piano, other famous scores I'll put out there piano wise. Forrest Gump is one that comes to my mind. Is that piano, and then To Kill a Mockingbird has a wonderful piano score.
Oh, really?
I love it. It is one of my favorites of all time. It's like a child. It's like a child playing the piano, so everything's a little bit stilted at time. Yeah,
I get it.
I really like that one. I love that movie. So, I didn't really have anything for F, Marry, Kill. It's not as fun with a movie like this, unless you want to throw Maytag, Nessie, and anybody else in this.
Not really.
But who do you like? All right, let's take out the Alistair knife or finger cutting and
as a person, who do I want to be with?
Yeah, George or Alistair.
I mean, I'm not feeling either of them very much. I mean, Baines is there. This is also important about this movie is it's through a female perspective, which is really cool. What that means is unlike the female object of attraction being Mary Kill butt stuff.
19th century butt stuff. I'm playing now.
So George, as much as he's important in this movie, I like that he's not really that three-dimensional. I don't need him to be for this movie to do what it's doing. I was surprised. I don't like Harvey Keitel's face, but I liked his body.
Yeah, I don't really love Harvey Keitel. That's one of my bigger things with this.
As an actor, he did some of his best work I've seen in this. And he can do a New York accent in certain movies. Like
he can do a New York accent in New Zealand too.
Yeah, he can do it in what is it? The Gospel According to Christ. He can do a New York accent as Judas.
I forgot he was Judas.
Yeah, he was Judas. Great movie, but he's like, "Hey, Jesus, what's going on?
Hey, I betray you. Hey, I'm walking here. He's walking on water over here.
Silver, what am I supposed to do?"
All right, who gave the best? Who gave the best performance in this movie? We're not.
Holly Hunter. Holly Hunter did. Even with Paquin there, she's just a next level performance. I looked at her filmography to be like, I know she's great in a million things, and she hasn't done enough movies. People should put her in things unless she doesn't want to.
She's Elastigirl.
Oh, that's She is in things. It wasn't like she
I
wasn't.
know. I know. Gosh. Oh brother, where art thou? I love her in Oh brother, where art thou?
Yes, yeah. So when she's so good at it. So it's like when you're able to act like that, why aren't you doing stuff like this more?
I kind of wish she was in more Coen brother. Like, give me. I love Frances McDormand,
Mhm.
but give me less Frances McDormand. Give me more Holly Hunter.
I had the same exact thought. I was like, you're in that universe. They should use you more.
Yeah, it's well when you're stupping the director, writer, you get in more of them.
Yeah,
Frances
that's what
McDormand.
happens. There's a whole other brother though. Go find
I
him.
know. Yeah, you're right. She's missing out. She's missing out. Yeah, Holly Hunter, deservedly, she kills it in
Yeah,
this.
definitely.
And she does all the piano playing, and she does all the sign language and stuff. Like,
And she acts with the sign language. She
Yeah.
acts with the piano playing. She really is a
And
rebel
it's
in this movie.
and it's British sign language. It's not it's not ASL, obviously.
I was like,
It's-
ASL didn't exist at this point. I don't think
Right.
so. Yeah. So I was like, oh, it has to be an older version.
And I'm learning more about British Sign Language because of the Great British Bake Off.
Okay.
Not that I'm learning it, I just learning how different it is from.
Right.
But one thing I'll say is that Holly Hunter uses her face more than British Sign Language is supposed. Like American ASL is more facial stuff.
Yeah, but that's also Americans versus Brits with spoken language too.
That's true. That's
They're
true.
not an expressive people.
All right. Recast. I do these. I don't know if you did any of this, but
I did a little bit
1993.
of stuff. I usually I want to give up on these because I don't know actors like you do, but
Yeah.
I came up with some stuff.
All right, let's hear it.
So in '93, I almost went with. I had a few. I think my choice might have been Jodie Foster.
And
I don't think
give
she can pull all that off.
Holly Hunter the Jodie Foster role in Silence of the Lambs.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what? One of the things I was thinking about is why one of the reasons Holly Hunter's so good about this is because she has a very specific type of prettiness that is almost plain. Like she's so gorgeous, but she has a reserved prettiness, a porcelain doll, like tight kind of thing. So I thought of Nicole Kidman and Jodie Foster also is a very attractive person who is just very reserved in their prettiness. It's not like, flowy.
Yeah.
Abusive. And Frances McDormand came to mind too. I would love to see what she did with it.
Yeah, she would have been good. I didn't have anybody in '93. This is originally they wanted. I don't know if this is in any of your notes or anything, but a Campion wanted Sigourney Weaver in this role.
I put Sigourney Weaver down as a possibility before I saw that, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I felt proud of myself. I was like, oh, that's the way they wanted. Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and jump into my thing where it says like they considered Sigourney Weaver, Angelica Houston.
Okay.
Interesting. Jennifer Jason Leigh.
We talked about Jennifer Jason Leigh last time I was on your show, and how I
Yeah.
went through a bunch of her movies and how she's not a great actor, but she tries so hard that I love it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see her in this. I want to see her in other weird stuff.
Isabelle Huppert, or
Oh, that is-
French actress. Juliette Binoche.
yeah.
Madeline Stowe was the one that stuck out to me. I don't know if she was also in Shortcuts too.
Let's say I know that name.
She kind of looks like Holly Hunter a little bit, like
Okay.
dark hair and kind of in that same, I don't know, they kind of have that same features or whatever. But I thought about Madeline Stowe. That would have been a good one. I honestly, with the two characters, I think Keitel and Neil should switch.
Oh, you seem to have liked Neil in this movie way more.
I
than
did like Neil more than this movie.
I think one of my top 3 complaints is his acting. I don't.
Well,
like it.
I think that Neil is the problem because of the role he's in. Because he is so likable. Like we're getting at Dr. Alan Grant. Obviously, he did more movies than Jurassic Park, but
I know
he's coming off of this, Dr. Alan Grant, and he's almost too nice and too charming that we know of, and seemingly, obviously, not with the lines he delivers or anything like that. It feels more, I don't know, slimy, or like he's trying to be slimy, but he's not fully committed to it.
I mean, so I agree that he's the worst written too. Yeah. So I mean, like, I think some of it's on his acting, but I think a lot of it is on like they don't know whether to make him sympathetic, boring, or a super villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he knows what to do with it. So
yeah, fair.
Those are did you have other ones for them? For the men?
Not good ones, but Kevin Costner, but which role?
He
doesn't play bad guys.
He wouldn't play the bad guy.
He doesn't play bad guys, but I don't want to see him as Baines. I want to see him as a bad guy. And then a young De Niro, maybe. As I was trying to think of people who are like rough and not pretty.
Yeah.
for Baines. I think that's why Keitel works so well. But I think the casting's kind of perfect, which makes it hard.
Yeah. No, just give me Heat 2 years earlier. Put Pacino and both trying to do British accents.
They push the feminist message out of the way, out the window, and then they just start rah, at each other.
Just ooh-ahing at each other, you know.
I need to see that comedy sketch.
Oh my gosh.
Off. Yeah.
That would have been great. That would have been so good. 2023 casting.
I had 2 possibilities for Ada. Saoirse Ronan would be great.
Ooh, I love.
But my favorite, I'm gonna get this name wrong too. My girl, who I've been loved for so many years, is Mia Wasikowska.
Yeah, I never know how to pronounce her name.
Yeah, I don't know how. She was great in Jane Eyre. Also has that porcelain doll, like plain prettiness. I think she's very proper. She's a really good actor. She's been in a ton of stuff. So I think those would be my 2023s.
I picked. I don't know if you know who this actress is, and if specific movie that I would suggest to you, Jodie Comer for the role of Ada. She was in the series called Killing Eve. I think it was a BBC show. But she was in a Ridley Scott film like last year or the year before called The Last Duel. She's very good in that movie. And would highly suggest. I would love to get your opinion on The Last Duel.
Okay, it's Duel, Duel.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's based on a real story from like the, I don't even know, 1600s or 1500s or something. Yeah. So Ben Affleck is in it. Matt Damon is in it, and Adam Driver is in it. But it is really well done. It's got a little bit of a Rashomon feel to it, where you get 3 different perspectives of the same thing happening. It's wonderful, I think.
All right, I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah. But she's kind of got that. You kind of explained it earlier with like a Nicole Kidman-esque. She feels a little bit more of like a Nicole Kidman on that side of things person, but I think she's probably a better actress than her.
Yeah, I put Nicole Kidman down. I don't know if I said that, but it was an option, but I don't think she could. She just can't do what Holly Hunter can do as an actor.
Yeah.
It was like, I guess it makes sense, but it wouldn't be as good.
I had Ewan McGregor as Baines. I don't know why I want a better looking person in the Baines role.
Yeah.
But I think that Ewan McGregor with like a beard and
in 2023, Ewan McGregor?
Yeah. 2023 Ewan McGregor.
I think I nailed this one. I put Pedro Pascal.
Ooh, that's a good one. He's hot
kind of rough, but still sexy. Like I can see him with like those tats on his face and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Who'd you have for Alice there?
Bradley Cooper.
I get it. And it's kind of the same reason that I went with Benedict Cumberbatch. And one, I picked Benedict
I almost wrote
Cumberbatch
that down
because of the Campion thing.
He's Benedict Cumberbatch. I almost said Cuckerbatch. Because I was about to say he's too cuckable. Like, because I was about to say that, I almost said Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, but both him and Cooper have these very angular faces that make them look a little bit. They could be bad guys, you know.
Yeah.
Like something about
I think Cooper can play bad and good, funny and serious. I don't think we've seen the edges of Bradley Cooper yet. He's such a weirdo.
He's got a big nose in that Maestro movie that's coming out about Leonard Bernstein. So
great. Yeah, that's what the world needed.
Big prosthetic nose.
Big nose on Leonard Bernstein. Awesome.
I like that. I like our casting. That's good. Pedro Pascal, I didn't even think about it. No, that's good. Maybe they could do a better Irish accent. That's the accent that Harvey Keitel is attempting, by the way, an Irish accent.
Why? That's not what he's doing.
Yeah. And I also thought he was
wife in Britain. He doesn't need to be like, his wife is in England. He doesn't need to be Irish.
I also thought he was at first he was doing like a South African accent. It sounded so bad. And I was like, oh, is he saying like, was this guy raised by the Maori? I'm really confused. Like I didn't know what it was, but Irish is what it's supposed to be.
Well, luckily he didn't have much to say.
That's true. There's not a lot of dialogue.
Also, he could have done better with his accent since he only has like 3 words at a time. Like it's really easy to nail.
Higher.
Oh my God.
He just wants that skirt. He wants to see them ankles. Okay. Fun facts. Anything that you found out about this movie that was pretty interesting?
I think it all came out. Yeah. Chopin, Bluebeard, Emily Dickinson. Yeah. That's it.
I had one of the couple things I wanted to talk about. We already mentioned Jane Campion's the first one to win the Palme d'Or, first woman to win. Flora's name is never mentioned in this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's my subtitles that make me feel like it's mentioned all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I had to watch this movie with subtitles too, because
I watch everything with subtitles, but yeah, I never would. I would have, if you had claimed that and asked me to like bet money, I would have lost money on that. And I was like, no, I saw it.
yeah. Holly Hunter is quoted as saying this about the nudity in the film. I've never signed a nudity clause in my life. And whenever I've done nudity, I felt it was right. I mean, we've got 5 senses and sex employs all of them. So if you're expressing something about what it means to be alive in the world, how can you subtract sex from that?
Damn.
I liked that quote.
That's kind of a hot quote.
Yeah, right. But I like that. And she was like, we've got 5 senses and sex gets all of them out. And
She was like, you're not getting turned on by the sound of sex. She says that like she presumes that you're using all 5 senses all the time when you're fucking, because that's how she fucks. And she's like, yeah, isn't that the only way to do it? Cool.
She should have been the 6th sense.
No.
According
why don't they ever fuck on the piano?
That's holy ground.
Yeah, too easy.
That's holy ground.
Yeah.
Let's see. According to Courtney Love, you're gonna love this if you didn't already know. According to Courtney Love, her husband Kurt Cobain saw this movie with a couple of friends one day before he committed suicide, making it very likely it's the last film he had ever seen.
Awesome. I love it. About it. It just makes me happy that that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also want I want a collection. I want like a chat book of everything that Courtney Love has ever said about Kurt after he died.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a quote
somebody
book.
that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
It's probably the most messed up stuff. We were talking about women directors earlier, women in general. After Lena Wertmuller for 7 Beauties, Jane Campion was only the 2nd woman to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director and first for an English language film, as the earlier film was Italian. The only other women to be nominated are Sofia Coppola for Lost in Translation, Catherine Bigelow for The Hurt Locker, Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Women. Bigelow's, Zhao, and Campion are the only 3 women to have won the award as of 2022.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So that gave us everything we needed there.
There are others out there, man. There are really cool women directors out there. I don't know if you've ever seen any Kelly Reichardt films, but she's so amazing. There's
a Kelly Reichardt. I want to see First Cow.
I haven't seen First Cow yet. I missed that one.
And she does all the films with Michelle Williams, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wendy and Lucy.
Meek's Cut Off.
Meek's Cut Off is so great. I thought about almost bringing that up because Power of the Dog is a Campion Western film. I don't know if it's feminist in tone, but Meek's Cut Off is feminist in tone as a Western. No. Really good.
The Power of the Dog is about toxic masculinity.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the big one I get out of that one.
Okay.
Here, let me read this from the chat. I just see this. Though I read that the piano of the time shouldn't have sunk, but I don't know how true that would be.
It was okay. You Thank you. Where did you read that?
That's Joseph in the chat, man.
Yeah, man, with the deep cuts. I don't know. I guess some pianos wouldn't sink. It's just all about the wood, right? The rest of it would float.
I don't know. Science corner. We need a science experiment.
Right.
I need Spencer on here. He'll do it. He'll sink a piano for me. That guy will do anything for me.
He's our local Mythbuster.
Give me a couple things that you didn't like about the movie.
Yeah, I had some of those. Well, I said Sam Neill already a little bit. Needed to be better as an actor. He needed to be a little more scarier early on. It's a hard ask, but I need you to play with how sympathetic I am. Make me feel more sympathetic, but then like make it slow that he's coming out as not being able to handle her or her lack of warmth toward him, and then make things come out. So that would have been better. And then I kind of, on my second watch, changed his criticism, but I like a period piece needs to be a little bigger in scope. and it didn't do that. But then I was reading and thinking about like the claustrophobia of the New Zealand bush helping. This is a movie, a rare thing I will say, that I would want another half an hour of. If you found little episodic moments that were interesting in and of themselves, but helped to develop some of these characters in a better pacing way, I would have gone for another half hour. And I think maybe the pacing problems could be fixed as long as you could pair that extra half hour, those scenes that show them falling in love a little better, Flora moving away from her mother a little better, Sam Neill getting worse a little better. If you can find little interesting like episodes of things that happen that also develop those things more, I would take another 30 to 45 minutes of this movie.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was actually surprised that this movie came in right at 2 hours.
Yeah, I was too.
I thought it was at least going to be a 2.5 hour or 3 hour movie. Because that's what they did. I mean,
that's what you do with those movies. Man.
Yeah.
We get the budget $7 million. I mean, I don't know what 1993 $7 million is. That might be.
That's not a lot for this.
You don't have a lot of like, hey, let's get helicopter shots over terrain.
Yeah.
Let's get 100 actors to show how big the village is. You know, like that's why you don't have a lot of extra characters or like little.
Well, that was one of the things with the budget that I was thinking about. Is like obviously we talk about the bush and everything, but like I never knew what the village was like. I felt like this all happened in one house. Yeah. And then you had the shack that was Baines' shack, and that was the only 2 locations that you see. So I didn't really.
You need that intimacy. So I don't want a ton more characters and things, but a bit more would have probably made the intimacy work better.
So I definitely agree with you, and most of the things that I've already talked about, like Keitel accent and the weird Maori stuff in here.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the intention of the movie, but I feel like it just kind of glosses over it. It's like I said, not a very anti-colonialism movie, but it's also not trying to be
about that criticism of the Maori. Like, I mean, there are like more academic essays. So like people have like dived into that about this movie, which I'm happy that has happened.
Yeah. And I think it probably, I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet about Killers of the Flower Moon that just came out, and it's talking about the Osage people, but
we're probably better at that than we used to be. I'm sure we are better.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but
it's not perfect. And that I think that's the criticism that Scorsese's gotten is like, hey, thanks for what you did do and what you have done and opened up to it. Here's what we really think about like our treatment as the Osage and everything. So I do think it's obviously getting better. With that
I'm going to a book club for that book tomorrow when I have like 220 pages to read.
It's quick. You'll get
it is quick. It's fun. I've already read like 90 or something.
I like David Gran and the style that he writes. It's a historical, but it's also narrative based. So
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun read. That's a good way to put it. Like a Fine Wine and Dish, if you could pair this movie with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
So my first thought was Out of Africa, which is Meryl Streep in Africa, and dealing with the travails of dealing with that stuff. It's just like like pretty white woman has to be strong outside of her element and colonialism. But I think a better one I came up with that made me happy. The Phantom Thread.
Ooh, I almost put down the Phantom Thread. I love the Phantom Thread.
I love the Phantom Thread. It's a little slept on as like a throwaway PTA movie, right? But it's a period piece, and it's about a psychologically complex and difficult relationship with power dynamics where 2 people have to learn where the power belongs and how to give it and take it away.
Yeah. Okay. Any others that you had?
Amadeus.
Okay.
It's just about pianos.
Just about piano. I had a piano triple feature. It was the piano teacher, and the pianist. Yeah. I strongly suggest somebody watch all 3 of those back to back.
Oh God, I don't think I could back to back.
Put the pianist in the middle too. It's gonna be real great.
The slog.
No, in a more serious note, I did put 2 down as well. I've read this in college, and I've seen a version of this written, but Anna Karenina, it was what I kept thinking about. Just with like the triangle, the love triangle, like she's in this loveless marriage and she wants to be with this other man. So that's like more of the loving love story part of this.
Not so much I didn't think about of like love triangle movies.
The other one I put was Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is
I've never seen it.
A beautiful movie about two women falling in love, and obviously falling in love during a time they're not supposed to. And
That's what that movie's about. Okay.
yeah.
I was confused for a second because one of Jane Campion's biggest successes has been The Portrait of a Lady, which is a Henry James adaptation, but different movie.
Different movie. I think you can watch it on Hulu if you want. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Again, like a woman that's in a repressive relationship. And it is more on the more of a feminist view than maybe like Anna Karenina is. So
yeah, man, I don't know who that actor is really quickly. I watched an Emily Dickinson movie this year about her and her life, and the actor was extraordinary. Might have been a good recast, but the Emily Dickinson movie would pair really well with this because it also has feminist themes and is a period piece.
That's not Bright Star, is it?
Keith wrote that poem, A Quiet Passion, and it's Cynthia Nixon. Yeah, and she's so good in it.
Okay. Bright Star is also, I don't know, it's about Fanny Braun and John Keats.
Okay, yeah, I would say, Bright Star.
And that's a Campion film, so.
Okay.
I just thought poet Emily Dickinson, so I don't know why. Okay, no, those are good. Everybody go watch The Pianist, the sequel to The Piano.
Yeah.
Rewatchability rating, if you had to give it a 1 out of 5.
I mean, as much as I love this movie, I gave it a 3.5. I just watched it twice in 48 hours, honestly.
Yeah.
And I did like it the second time still, but I like it more than average, and it's just not the type of movie that you're meant to watch over and over.
Yeah.
Maybe annually if you super love it, but every decade otherwise.
Yeah, I gave it a 2. I was like, I don't see myself just leaping at, hey, let's watch The Piano.
But now with this experience, I could see myself in 5 to 10 years going, yeah, The Piano, man. I liked it the first time. I liked it on the podcast. I'm going to watch it again. You know?
Yeah. Again, you got me way more hyped after talking with you about it. So I definitely like it more than I initially said. Cool. So what did you give it overall?
4.5.
Okay. I gave it a 3.5, but I'm willing to bump that up to a 4 after talking.
I mean, I'm willing to go down to a 4 too. It is not the most brilliant piece of art that's ever been put together as far as how pretty it is. Some of the direction misses. Sometimes like the color, like things miss. And then other scenes, it's like, whoa, this is some of the most beautiful direction I've ever seen. But she is not an art director making gorgeous. I don't think that's what her strength is to be an art director. Which makes it impressive when she hits it out of the park, but she's not always doing that.
Yeah. There's a lot of blue stuff.
I was going to bring that up because the 90s and the early 2000s made me allergic to all blue filters. I'm like, stop doing that.
Stop putting a blue filter on things. I hated it. That was out of the choices that she made, there's a lot of blue. And I was like, I don't like
that. That is a 90s thing. And I immediately got turned off too. Like, it reminded me of Tony Scott movies.
Oh, yeah. Fuck Tony Scott. Well, Ryan, thank you again. I think that went really well. I always enjoy talking to you about movies, but we always end on recommendations of things that you've most recently watched. It doesn't have to be something that you've recently watched. It could be something you've read or anything like that, but I'll give you an opportunity to tell people what they're missing out on.
I didn't have a ton of hits lately, but I did watch some interesting things. The Wash is an 80s film about Asian Americans and families, and they're it's not a beautifully directed film. It's a decently acted one, but it's really well written about Asian American families, and they're entered from the 80s again too. So not kind of like the post 2000s, like let's finally pay attention to non-white people. How the internment camps affected people, how people dating outside of race and ethnicity affected people. It is about an older couple where the father is very, very stern and the mother was very passive, and she's had enough of it and she's left them and them as a family all figuring out where they need to be. The Wash.
And that is 1988, because I just Googled it and I forgot that The Other Wash is a 2001 film starring Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg.
Also, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Never seen it. Go ahead and watch that too.
Get a Wash double feature in there.
Yeah, The Wash. That's what I pair The Wash with, is The Wash. Beats, Rhymes, and Life. I watched the Tribe Called Quest documentary. Michael Rappaport directed.
Mm-hmm.
I love Tribe, and if you love Tribe, you'll get a lot out of there. Although the movie spends a little too much time about Q-Tip and Five Dogs like drama, which is just pretty boring drama when it comes to 90s hip hop. It's just like, I think you like yourself too much. Well, I think you're kind of a dick. And I was like, you're both right. I don't know why I needed an hour of that.
And they didn't shoot each other over it, so that's good.
No, yeah, they would never. That's what you walk away from. They're like, well, those are sweet enough guys. I wish they
love Q-Tip, love Five Dog.
Let's see what else. Did you start watching Deep Cover a little bit? I think on my Criterion account.
Deep Cover.
Oh, I told you
think
to watch.
so.
Okay, that's okay. I mentioned that Deep Cover was a fun movie I found. It is.
Yes, I have it written down. Sorry.
Lawrence Fishburne and Jeff Goldblum. Lawrence Fishburne goes undercover as a drug dealer, and him and Jeff Goldblum build a drug empire together until it all falls apart. And it was a surprisingly great gangster film.
Okay.
Yeah. And those things, less than you, I think, like don't hit me as hard. Action films and crime films, especially when they're 30 years old. So I was surprised I liked it. And then on theme, I will say that I watched Chantal Ackerman, a couple out it on VOD. Yeah, I thought I saw you watch it in my account, but I probably just left it at a weird spot. Chantal Ackerman, who had a big win this year, though rest in peace, when the Sight and Sound poll named Jeanne Dielman the best movie of all time, which was like a big a female director for one that hadn't been coming. It wasn't like Citizen Kane and The Bicycle Thief up there at the top all over again. It came out of nowhere and won, which is cool. That is an art film I love. Jeanne Dielman is a long film of static shots of a woman in the, I don't know which decade, many decades past, living her kind of boring life. Even when it comes to engaging in sex work, it's kind of a boring life. Feminist masterpiece. I recently watched her last film. She unalived herself shortly after this film released, and it's just a collection of her hanging out with her ailing mother before she died. It's called No Home Movie. If you like art film, it's very good art film fare.
Okay. I've been meaning to get into, especially since the Sight and Sound poll came out, and that's now the number one film.
Yeah, Jeanne Dielman. I mean, that's not the full title. I don't know it. I don't know the numbers. It's like Jeanne Dielman, 23
hours. Something. Yeah. I was
trying to check it out. Hey, here's the key, guys. Well, it's okay. Just watch art film in little bits and pieces. You sit down and watch 20 minutes, and then do that 5 times, and you've gotten through an art film.
I don't think I've ever watched any Chantal Ackerman, so a couple of them are on my list though. La Captive.
Okay, yeah.
And definitely Jeanne Dielman. I don't know anything else. It looks like.
Yeah, she did documentaries and art film, and sure, documentaries are very arty too. But this was good. It was just her. It was just her mother, and it was like her basically because she was so old, like half the time forgetting she was being filmed and just not doing anything crazy, but just a loving mother-daughter relationship over a couple years as she got iller and died. The mother died shortly after the filming ended, and then we lost Ackerman shortly after the movie was released. But a goddess among female directors and among directors, period. So nice. at least know about her.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
That's it.
The only one I'm going to pimp out is because of is on the Criterion collection right now, and was very surprised. I'm doing my horror movies this month. Everything. I watched Ginger Snaps. Sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
It is a sister movie. It is a puberty movie, coming of age movie. It's a werewolf movie. It is Diablo Cody's Jennifer's Body before Jennifer's Body came out. Like the dialogue is way better than it was better than it should have been. So I do recommend that one. That one I'm definitely loving. So that was a big surprise to me. And then I had one other one that I wanted to tell people about. As I of course struggle after I had it all written down and everything. You're Next, which is another again horror movie. It came out in the last several years. I want to say 2011 is when it came out, and it's a home invasion movie. But it had cool kills. It was fun. It's
cool kills.
Yeah, cool kills. It's that horror thing. but it was fun. I had fun.
Yeah.
So, and no, I hated Skinamarink. Don't go watch Skinamarink. It sucks. But other than that, I think that's everything that we had. The next movie next week is going to be we're going to take a break from some of these serious movies and then get right back on that. But next week's movie is Mrs. Doubtfire, and it is currently streaming on Disney Plus for those people that want to watch that and join us next week here on 52/1993. So
remember when she catches her tits on fire?
It's when she get the hot flashes, my guy.
Hot flashes, that's
Hot
right. I just wanted to. That's my part of that podcast is screaming that at the end of this one.
Go watch Jean Diamant and Mrs. Doubtfire and compare your notes.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week here on 52/1993. Thank you so much, everybody. You have a good week.
Bye. Love you.
Love you. Bye. I'm trying to close this and it won't let me because it's like frozen. But
We're
I love
screaming
you
forever now. Yeah.